This next step should be considered pretty much optional, but, well, I love to do it. I like to take the kind of skin that I put on the last layer of my paper mache pumpkins and put it around the outside of the bottom of the base of my Wytch bottles. This just gives the cotton that we're going to be using later a good spot to grip and grab onto that I know is 100% solid, and it also, for me, helps to smooth out some of these ridgy bumps. And you know, you might take a different method which doesn't give you this, but I've got these individual strip line reinforcements. The skinning layer will allow the cotton to go over it and smooth out, and in the end it will be nylon invisible. So we're on to that step. Incidentally, paper mache paste, the link for how to make that will be in the description to this video. Boy, I hope I painted this brush in the right direction. Okay. Without further ado, here we go. Standard technique, of course, is to take your paper mache paste, brush it onto whatever the smeg you want covered. I am using standard brown paper towel that you might find from a dispenser in almost any men's room in America. You can use white paper towel, you can use toilet paper, you can use virtually any paper product that has a little bit of floppily give to it. You could use newspaper, it really doesn't matter. I just have this stuff on hand and it's what I use for skins, so that's what I'm using. Stick your item of choice on and then brush over the top. Grab your next piece, rinse and repeat. Alright, here is the bottle with a nice little layer of paper skin around the bottom, and again, you can use just about any paper you want for it. I avoid the areas at the margin. That's going to get covered up by cotton. If you ever get paper mache paste on this, and I'm going to try to stop saying because that ticks me off. If you ever get paper mache paste on this, do not worry. It's going to happen quite a bit, and the paper mache paste cleans off incredibly easily with just a little bit of water and either a Q-tip or a cotton ball or just a moist piece of paper towel. You'll be doing that before the end of the project anyway. The next phase of this project is arguably the most fun, because now we're going to make all our crazy kooky shapes with some cotton. I'm going to give this skin a little bit of time to dry, not fully, because quite frankly the cotton phase is just too much fun to wait for, and this does not have to be fully dry to get around that. Another thing you do want to think about at this point is, do you want to add any crazy kooky stuff to your bottle apart from just the Wytchwoody aspect or the wood shapes that are going to be on this? Because now's the time to start thinking about, do I want a big scary skull stuck to my bottle? Do I want pretty shiny gems stuck to my bottle? Do I want pretty shiny mirror pieces stuck to my bottle? All these things can be done. Another thing you can do is maybe take a piece of wood, stick it to your bottle, and wow, on my camera the lighting on this thing is atrocious. There we go. This is a little wooden disc which I stuck to this thing and later wood burned a little sigil in. I would recommend wood burning a sigil in it beforehand and then sticking to it, but all these things are tiny add-ons that you can stick onto your bottle. Plan this ahead of time. With this bottle, The only thing I have, because the bloody dollar store doesn't have the Halloween stuff out yet, even though they have some of it, they don't have the good stuff. Yeah, well, I picked up a cheap bottle or bag of these garbagey, awful looking acrylic gems. And I'm going to try to incorporate these into my Wytchwood on this bottle. But I'm going to be trying to use some of the more colored ones, because in the previous gem bottle that I did, I didn't want to do huge color experiments. I just wanted to have a cat who knocked over a bunch of bottles on me at random in the back to screw up the video. These guys are not very colored, and so they bleed through whatever light comes out the Wytch bottle. But on this run through, I am going to grab solid colored gems. Particularly, I'm going to grab reds, and I'm going to incorporate them into the bottle and see what I get out of this. Before we get to the next phase, I want to talk to you about your balls. I am terrified that you misheard me there. I meant your cotton balls. Cotton balls. Not, never mind. This is the mainstay ingredient that you're going to be using. And the problem with cotton balls is when you soak them in mache paste and you pull them apart, you don't always get a really good mix. Sometimes they come together, there's sections that are too thick. If you want to save yourself some time and energy, the best thing you can do, and although this is a little time consuming, grab a cotton ball or 500, sit down for a little bit, and what you're looking for is an area around the edge of the cotton ball that's usually a little wispy, and you can usually unroll the cotton ball. Once it's unrolled, you're going to want to tease those fibers apart into kind of a flat, open section of cotton. And this is going to give you a lot more workability than dunking a whole cotton ball and trying to work with it afterwards. And I like to have quite a reservoir of these things. It's not hard to do. If this activity sounds like a nightmare to you, that's okay. The good gods of merchandising have provided a solution. This solution is known as cotton coil, and it can be had at just about any beauty supply store or, online merchant franchise that starts with A and ends with Zon. And this stuff is pretty much already unrolled. It's also about twice the quantity of a cotton ball in its depth, and all you have to do is just pull a piece out and you can start teasing it apart immediately. You don't have to unroll it or try to find the right spot. But this is cotton coil versus cotton balls. Cotton balls, of course, are arguably a little bit cheaper, but cotton coil is still very, very cheap. This material is vastly inexpensive. So there's your cotton options. Stage one involves getting that cotton saturated with mache paste and onto your project. I need to address it because I'm hearing it. If I'm hearing it, you're probably hearing it. I have water boiling in the background. That is the water that's going to go into the wine bottle with a little bit of fabric softener to make the water inside cloudy so it gets and refracts the light. The whole reason that I'm boiling it is to make sure that it is generally microbe free. You don't want to have it go in there, encounter a little bit of maybe leftover mache paste or something left over in the bottle, start to ferment, and then all of a sudden on Halloween night, that cork pops right off and you've got a funky reek from the inside. So I boil my water first and get going. Generally, I fill the bottle once I've got my project cottoned up the way I like it, because your very final step is to pop that cork on, seal it all up with hot glue, and then add your last bit of cotton around the top. But let's do the fun stuff first, shall we? Let's kick off with the cotton. Grab a couple pieces of pre-prepared and teased out cotton balls or cotton thread. I like to have a little saturation chamber, just some sort of dish ready for me. Toss. Let's see here. Let's give an accurate count for everybody who's OCD like me. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 pieces in there. And here's the part you're going to go absolutely nuts over if you're a measurement fanatic. There's no great measurement for this. All you want to have is the cotton loosely saturated with the mache paste. I'm going to try to eyeball this here. And I'm going to guess I just poured in about 1/8 cup. I'm then just going to squidge around with my hand, and I'm going to make sure that the cotton has absorbed all that mache paste as much as possible. You do have to be careful because sometimes the inside sections here, like this inside bit, has not absorbed very much mache paste. But a quick re-squidge will get that on, no problem. If you have any extra mache paste in there, and this is feeling just way too super soggy and you've still got a lot in the bottom, no problem. Just grab your mache paste receptacle, press your cotton against an edge, and it will seep back down in. And then pet your cat, who's seemingly afraid of the thunderstorm. Bearing in mind that you have mache paste all over your hands and you don't want her fur to get all stiff. Hi. Hi. It's okay, Fuzzball. Alright, now in here we have the main ingredient of the Wytch bottle, which is this mache paste saturated cotton. And all you need to do with this to make your magic happen is start to pull it apart. You're going to get a couple shapes almost instantaneously. These long lines I have many names for. Among them are Goobers, because they hang down. I will also sometimes call them strips. These are great for making building up sections of what looks like wood, especially if you give them a little twist up. The other sections that are very easily recognizable are what I call filaments. And these are all these very, very, very fine sections that are hanging down. So these are all filaments down here, all these little interstitial pieces. The golden rule of this project is to do your filaments first, because they are tiny, they need to stick to the back of everything. Or at least I find it aesthetically best if you do that. And what I'm going to do with my filaments first is I am going to peel some off here. I'm going to tease these filaments out a little bit. And then this area down at the bottom where I have the hot glue, I'm just going to put them on there. And I'm going to make sure the filaments are going up. And you can just swipe up here to make sure that they are moving in an upward direction. So that's my start. Filaments first. Get your bottom section covered. And let's do one more. So again, an example of filaments. Tiny little fibers, tiny little hairs. Lay them on. Sometimes they may lay on already in the direction you want. Sometimes they might need just a little encouragement. If it ever appears that they are too dry to you and they look like they're not very saturated, give your finger a dip in your mache paste and then just run it right over them. And that'll get them going and all set. So I'm going to switch to fast forward mode and do the rest of the bottom here. Just to highlight another method that you can use. If your filaments are holding together and you want them splayed out more, you can get an X-Acto blade or your fingernail and sometimes separate them a little bit to make something that's a little bit more exciting in its shape than existed there before. If you have long lines like this, you can also play with the shapes a little bit to try to make them a little bit more spooky. Don't worry about the filaments sticking to the glass. They will adhere with no problems whatsoever. So enjoy yourself and play with these lines as much as you like. Alright, I have my bottom ridge of my bottle done. And now I'm going to start working on the upper edges and descending my Wytchwood from the top of the bottom down in several large tree-like forms. To do this, I like to start at the top, at the neck of the bottle where it narrows, and give myself kind of a little collar to start with. Just take it around and maybe drop a couple of tentative downward sections. So here I have a little collar around the top. I have dropped down, well, 3 good little branches. Now I'm going to add on to them and just play with their descent. Make them as gnarled and twisted as possible by taking bits of cotton. In fact, this one's quite good. And either simply adding it to it, giving it a little bit of a directional twist to make it a squirrely, awful looking branch. Or grab a section of your cotton. Yay, thunderstorm in the background. You can also take these pieces, give them a little twist to make a twisty, gnarled branch. But these pieces will all adhere to each other. And in the end, you're going to be overlapping them. So this is starting to make a descending, gnarled branch. If you've got any other add-ons that you wanted to add, then don't forget to think about where you want them and start to put them in here. I want to take these gems and try to put a few of them into this mess somewhere, and, well, probably somewhere about here pretty soon is where I'm thinking about doing it. So I'm going to attach this piece of cotton right here, and again, just keep laying these pieces of cotton right on top of each other. I'm going to wedge this gem on here, connect these pieces, and then I'm going to see if it'll stay. Sometimes you have good luck, sometimes not so much. Fortunately, again, the saturation of the mache fluid will make it want to adhere to the glass. And there's its starting point. I'm not super happy with how that gem is embedded, so I'm just going to take some cotton and reinforce this. Going to take some small strands, give them kind of a half a twist, and start layering them around this gem. If you're really worried about it, which quite frankly, the more I do this, the more I am, you can take whatever you want to stick to the bottle and hot glue it to it. So I'm going to start heating up this hot glue gun because I don't want that gem to start wandering halfway through this project. I also don't want it popping out as we go along. So I'm going to let this heat up, and while that heats up, I'm going to take a minute to talk about your filling. At this point, you should start be thinking about the fluid that you want to put in the bottle as well. I've got some water which is already boiled and cooling. Beautiful thunderstorm. You do not want to put freshly boiled water right into this bottle because the hot glue that you got holding it at the base could start to soften with that heat. And as you're sitting there working, all of a sudden, thunk, the bottle drops down. So heat up your boiling water, put it inside some sort of container, let it reach a temperature where it's not going to melt the glue. Another thing that I have, which is completely optional, I must stress this because it's not cheap, I have purchased some chemical called propylene glycol, which is used as an antifreeze and food additive. What I plan on doing is add some propylene glycol to this, as well as my water and my clouding mixture, so that I am able to store this thing inside the garage during winter time without having to worry about the water inside freezing, coming back after a long winter, and all of a sudden my beautiful project that I worked so very hard on is a shattered mess on the floor. Ugh, the thought of that just, no thank you. So those are things to be thinking about at this point. So again, my water's boiled. I'm letting it cool so it's ready to go, because by the time I hit the top of this thing and I'm ready to seal it up, I want my water ready so I can seal it up, throw the last of my cotton around my cork and get that all good and going, and then let this sit overnight, dry up completely, and the next day I'm ready for the final steps. While this hot glue gun goes though, I'm going to try to take these other tree bits down. Okay, I am going to make sure that my other gems that I want here are stuck on there now with hot glue. So I actually end up following my own advice. Hey, plan this out ahead of time. Oh crap, I'm doing this last minute. Got all the gems I want on my project. Add enough paste to saturate. Cotton that is completely saturated will be very, very, very mushy and squidgy. And by that I mean most particularly, all of its filaments will tend to stick together, more or less in a line like this. If you dry it out a bit by squeezing the moisture out, the filaments will be more thin, wispy, and individual. So just an FYI for filament work with your cotton. If you're not getting filaments, you're just getting big, thick, squidged together lines that are very, very wet, and just squeeze your cotton out a little bit and you should find that your filaments really start to appear a lot more.